Peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice. Martin Luther King Jr. said that, and it really sets the stage for our deep dive today. Welcome, everyone. We're going into a really complex global issue exploring these intricate links, between peace deals, mineral wealth, and some very high-stakes international diplomacy. Specifically, we're looking at the recent agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, and Rwanda. And this isn't just some passing headline. It's a really critical discussion if you want to understand international relations, geopolitics, current events, really. Especially for those of you maybe preparing for exams like the UPSC, this is exactly the kind of topic that needs, well, a deep analysis. But honestly, it's vital for anyone wanting to stay informed. We're basing our discussion today on a really insightful analysis from the Observer Research Foundation, ORF. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how one single agreement, which seems to be about peace, actually opens up so many layers. We're talking resource competition, deep historical conflicts, ongoing humanitarian crises. It's all connected. So our mission, if you like, is to pull out the key insights from that ORF piece, help you understand the history, the motivations of the players, and, well, what this deal might actually mean. It's about connecting those critical dots. It's a very complex picture.
Absolutely. So let's start right at the beginning. The deal itself, signed June 27th, 2025 in Washington, D.C. And the core idea is pretty bold. President Tshisekedi of the DRC essentially proposed giving the U.S. better access to the country's massive mineral resources in exchange for security support, robust security support.
And from the U.S. perspective, the motivation seems quite, well, transparent. It's that intense competition with China, isn't it?
Yeah.
And securing those strategic supply chains for critical minerals.
Yeah, this whole minerals for peace thing. The ORF article points out it's not entirely new. There was that Ukraine-U.S. mineral resources agreement. But what's striking here is how tightly it weaves economic security with foreign policy. It really makes you ask, can resource deals actually build lasting peace, especially in places with decades of conflict?
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, I mean, the DRC's mineral wealth is just astonishing. We're talking potentially U.S. $24 trillion.
$24 trillion. That's hard to even comprehend.
It really is. More than the GDP of many major economies combined. It's this incredible wealth, absolutely vital for global clean energy, for technology. But for years, American companies have been, hesitant. The instability, the security risks.
Understandable.
So this deal, it looks like a direct U.S. attempt to sort of leverage security guarantees for that mineral cooperation. Specifically, to push back against China's dominance there. And we have to remember, this conflict isn't new. It's been going on for 30 years, constantly fueled by armed groups, cross-border issues, and yes, control over these very resources.
It's clear the minerals are a huge factor, a magnet. But to really get why peace has been so hard to achieve, we need to look at the history, the human cost. The ORF piece reminds us the UN calls it one of the most protracted, complex, serious humanitarian crises on Earth. It really traces back to the end of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Hutu extremists fled into the DRC, continued attacks on Tutsis in Rwanda.
And that just spiraled.
Exactly, leading to the First and Second Congo Wars. The DRC accused Rwanda of targeting Hutu civilians, looting resources. Neighboring countries got involved, taking sides. The whole Great Lakes region just got stuck in this cycle of violence. And the human cost. Over 6 million lives lost. Millions living in poverty despite sitting on, well, trillions in wealth. It's heartbreaking.
It truly is devastating. And a huge part of the problem now is just the sheer number of armed groups. Over 100 are active today.
100, still.
Yes, mainly in those eastern provinces, the mineral-rich areas. And their methods are brutal extortion, forced labor, child labor, protection rackets. They control mining sites, and the illicit mineral trade basically funds everything they do.
And M23 is a major one, right?
A key player, yes. They emerged back in 2012, were defeated for a bit, but came back strong in 2022. And just this year, January, February 2025, they actually seized the capitals of North and South Kivu provinces. That's significant. And crucially, that 2023 UN group of experts report, it explicitly said Rwanda was giving direct military support to M23. Troops, weapons, the works.
Okay, so the UN confirmed Rwandan support for M23.
According to that report, yes. Now, of course, there are counter-narratives. Rwanda denies it completely. They say any troops in the DRC are there for self-defense against Congolese forces and Hutu militias like the FDLR.
And the DRC.
Well, the DRC supports groups like the FDLR, which includes remnants of those Hutu militias. They see M23 as basically a Rwandan front to grab territory and resources, and the FDLR is seen as a counterweight.
So it's essentially a proxy conflict layered on top of everything else.
Pretty much. And the economic damage is huge. The DRC thinks it's losing about $1 billion a year in illegal mineral trade. And who benefits? Rwanda and Uganda, primarily. They've become major mineral exporters, despite not having large reserves themselves.
Which points to where those illegally traded minerals are likely going.
Exactly.
So before this latest deal, there were other peace efforts, AU-led ones.
Yes, the Rwanda and Nairobi peace processes.
Yeah.
But, frankly, they just haven't managed to stop the violence.
But then came more recent Western pressure. You mentioned the U.S. sanctions.
Right, in February.
Yes.
Sanctions on senior Rwandan military officials, and the European Parliament also weighed in, calling for suspension of cooperation agreements, freezing aid.
All aimed at pressuring Rwanda over M23.
Precisely, to get them to stop supporting M23.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. This pressure, the sanctions. It signals a shift, doesn't it? Mineral security isn't just about economics anymore. It's clearly tangled up with diplomacy, security objectives for the West. What does that actually mean going forward?
Well, it means the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
Especially for the U.S. If we shift focus slightly to American interests, it's really driven by those mineral needs the U.S. needs access badly. Tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, lithium.
The building blocks of modern tech?
Absolutely. For all the tech demands, and crucially, to reduce that dependence on China. And the DRC is just pivotal. Holds 60% of global coltan reserves. That's where tantalum comes from for your phone, your laptop.
60%? Wow.
And cobalt. The
Yeah.
DRC produced 76% of the world's mined cobalt in 2024. You simply can't overstate its strategic importance.
That really drives home why the DRC is so central. But as you said, China already has such a strong foothold in the mining sector there. How does the U.S. even begin to compete?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Chinese companies really do dominate, especially cobalt. They control and refine something like 80% of the cobalt coming out of the DRC.
80%?
Yeah. It's part of China's much larger long-term investment strategy across Africa. So Washington's trying a few things. There's that MOU Memorandum of Understanding for an EV battery value chain with the DRC and Zambia, and they've pledged over $4 billion to the Libido Corridor project. That's infrastructure to connect Angola's coast to the DRC and Zambia. Better export routes.
Trying to build alternative pathways.
Exactly. But the challenge for U.S. firms is, well, it's huge. That unstable political, economic environment. It makes operating incredibly tough. In fact, American mining companies were already pulling back before M23 flared up again. Freeport-McMoRan, a big U.S. name, sold its major stakes to a Chinese company.
Right, so just ending the fighting might not be enough.
Probably not on its own. The ORF analysis suggests more is needed. Additional guarantees, maybe, to really attract sustained American investment, given how fragile the governance structures still are. This raises an important question.
Yeah.
Can this peace deal, by itself, truly fix the underlying issues and bring in that needed investment? Or is a lot more required?
That is the crucial question, which brings us nicely to the terms of this new deal and the skepticism it's already facing. So the agreement pledges regional economic integration within 90 days and joint security coordination within 30 days.
Ambitious timelines.
Very. It also demands the, quote, complete neutralization of the FDLR. And in return, Rwanda stops its defensive action and withdraws its forces from DRC territory within 90 days.
Okay, but despite those points, there's significant skepticism. And, for good reason. The most glaring thing, M23 isn't mentioned at all. Their withdrawal isn't part of this deal, even though they're central to current fighting.
That seems like a massive omission.
It really does. Rwanda keeps denying ties, calling M23 a purely domestic Congolese problem. Outside their influence. And while Qatar is apparently mediating separately between the DRC and M23, the fact M23 isn't in this U.S. brokered deal, well, it undermines its immediate impact on the ground, doesn't it?
Definitely seems to limit its immediate effectiveness.
The model they're trying for here is sort of mutual gain, not zero-sum, cooperation on mineral access, governance, traceability, regional integration. But Washington's role in actually making it happen, that's unclear. Their attention is split, right? Ukraine, Gaza, the Middle East.
It's the competing priorities.
Exactly. Can the U.S. really provide the long-term political, diplomatic, financial support needed, especially with recent cuts to U.S. foreign aid and development programs, which often play a peace-building role?
And what about local perceptions?
Well, there are fears. Fears that American peace might mean enforced violently, or that the deal is mostly just about protecting U.S. business interests. Understandable concerns, really. And we absolutely have to remember, minerals are only one driver here. There are all those other deep-rooted issues: regional power struggles, history, poor governance, land disputes, citizenship. Tackling those needs long-term commitment. And the level of devastation means you likely need justice mechanisms too. Truth, reconciliation, reparations. Like we saw or tried to see in Rwanda itself, Liberia, Sierra Leone, South Africa.
Complex layers.
Incredibly complex. So any peace deal, to be sustainable, really have to address M23's role directly and invest in actual community rebuilding, not just top-down security deals.
So what does this all mean? I mean, pulling it together from the ORF analysis, it seems clear that, well, minerals were the catalyst for this deal.
They brought people to the table.
Right. But they alone won't be enough to guarantee lasting peace. Now, if it's implemented well, sure, there's an opportunity here. Better trade, investment, maybe more responsible resource management.
Potential upsides exist.
But the risk is focusing too narrowly on the minerals, treating it like the source calls it, a technocratic fix for what's actually a deeply political, historical, human crisis.
Exactly. True lasting peace in the DRC. It really hinges on tackling all those underlying problems that have destabilized the region for so long. The militias, the ethnic tensions, the weak institutions. And, that U.S. support. The thing giving this deal credibility right now, it kind of depends on whether the mineral side actually works out for them.
Interesting point.
Given how tough the investment climate is, the U.S. might need to offer more concrete incentives, things like government equity stakes, political risk insurance, to really get American companies to commit in a big way. Ultimately, it boils down to needing a long-term commitment, a strategy with many dimensions, not just one. Only then can you maybe transform this mineral logic, this idea that securing minerals equals peace, into something genuinely durable for the people there.
That's a really crucial takeaway. So as you listening reflect on all this, maybe consider this question. How can the international community, and maybe countries like India too, how can they balance their own geopolitical and economic interests with genuine, sustainable peace building? Especially in these places that are so resource-rich, but also so deeply mired in conflict.
It's a huge challenge.
It really is. It demands constant learning, engagement, and it's certainly relevant if you're tracking complex current events, maybe for those competitive exams. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of peace, resources, and conflict in the Great Lakes region. If you found this valuable, please do like this deep dive, subscribe to the deep dive for more discussions like this one, and leave us a comment, any questions or topics you'd like us to tackle next.
Your engagement really helps shape what we do.
It absolutely does. Thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.